Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for session 7. We're going to be covering recruitment and communication with coaches and athletes and others, and some tips and tricks. So we'll start with coaches, athletes, volunteers, talk about social media a little bit, and then some scanning, and then finish with some questions. So in today's session, we're going to be covering recruitment and communication tips and tools for coaches, athletes, and volunteers. We'll also look at how to utilize social media and scanning for recruitment and communication. So this training is based off of what some other areas and staff currently do. Obviously, we're living in a weird time right now with coronavirus, COVID-19. So keep in mind, these are just suggestions and ideas to give you inspiration to kind of start thinking about things, start getting in contact with people, so that when we're back into the swing of things and things are more normal, well, you'll have better ideas and things that you can try out. Okay, so to start with recruitment, some really cool thing to think about is that new coaches are a new network. So if you get a new coach, they come along with their group of people, their community, their network. So you could get new assistant coaches, you could get new referees, new chaperones, volunteers, even new athletes through some of the new coaches. So it's really important you obviously love your coaches, you want to keep them, but new coaches are never a bad thing. So who to contact? You can utilize local colleges and universities, youth groups, churches that are local around your area, varsity sports, both in college and in high school, special education directors or teachers from your local schools, and of course, group home directors from around your area. How to recruit coaches. One idea is using your management team. So you could assign one person on your team the role of recruitment, either part of the time or as their year-round kind of role. And then they'd be that one person that focused on it. They could come up with new ideas. They could be that point of communication for new people, bringing new people in and giving them more of an idea of how your area works. You could also attend school district events, whether that be PTA meetings or sports meetings, information about upcoming events that a school might host, or open houses. You could reach out via email or snail mail. We're going to talk about a welcome back packet that Area 8 does in a little bit, and they send that out both email and snail mail, so everyone gets a chance to get it. If you don't look at your mail, if you don't look at your email, you're going to get it one way or another. Could go to college activity club signups. So that's like an activities fair. A lot of colleges and universities will have this at the beginning of their semester. So that would be kind of like around this time. You could contact them. Maybe you don't have a booth, but you can go there and meet these clubs that maybe are service related or special education departments related, and make a face-to-face connection with them. Tell them a little bit about your area, ways to get involved, ways to volunteer. And that's how a lot of college students kind of find their activities for the year that they're going to be involved in. You could also contact your local sport authority, and I'm going to take you to their website, puremichigansports.org. If you go to our partners, you can find a lot of different sports authorities, commissioners, that you can contact, kind of figure out how you can get your name out there better, whether they have a magazine or a listing of different events coming up. It's a great way to get your name out there in ways that you might not have done before. Another option is students that weren't able to make their sports teams. So it's really great if you go to a high school and kind of contact that varsity coach. Did you cut anyone? Did anyone not make the team? They would make maybe great coaches. They do have to be 18 or older because of our Special Olympics rules, but those are people that are already interested in that sport. They make great unified partners as well. So coach communication. An important thing that you could try is a coach information meeting. You'd want to do it before the start of that specific sports season and mainly with those coaches. But if you did it at the beginning of the year, you can invite all your coaches within reason of this coronavirus issue and everything. So a great way to show people is to cover the rule changes and deadlines, which you can see at our website. So we went over this a little bit in the past, but again, if you go to our Special Olympics page, sports, our sports, and it takes you right to here. So we're going to scroll down. Let's look at flag football. All of the rules and deadlines and everything are here. So if you go to the sport rules book, if you're scrolling through all of the rules books and you want to find the new rules, some that are new that you want to share, you're going to look for these lines that are underlined. If it's underlined, that means it's new in relation to when it was posted last. So some of these may not be year to year new, but they're always good to re-mention to your coaches as a new rule so that they know some new things. So you can see not a lot of it's new, but there is some new stuff throughout the pages. So at these coach info meetings, you could also include an info packet. That could include an agenda with contact numbers, deadlines, preferably set before SOMI deadlines. So say today was a deadline for Special Olympics, August 18th. You'd want to set it kind of like a week before to give your coaches that week long of communication and getting it into you so that you're not behind when it comes to the SOMI deadline and you're right on time, right on top of it. You could give a timeline of the season, rosters from past seasons, so a list of the athletes that may have been on their team in the past, some contact numbers, and when their certification dates may expire. You could give them the athlete participation forms in this, a final roster form if you have them, a TEQ form if you have them, and copies of a blank athlete participation form and volunteer A form. So one example I'm going to show you. When I worked with Area 11, can everyone see this? I hope. When I worked with Area 11, I was part of these coaches meetings, and it's kind of nice to give the coaches some physical folder or packet of all the information so that they have it in their hands when they leave that coaches meeting going into their season. So this is kind of what the Area 11 one would look like, and this would be in a folder. So this is their agenda. It includes all the teams for poly hockey, the coaches, and their numbers. You can see some of them don't have coaches yet, and that's a great way to kind of reach out to find new people that could be coaching. It also gives just a little notes about rules throughout the thing to keep reminding you. Some links for important things. Information on the upcoming training that we had, and some helmets and uniform updates. Due dates that happen throughout the season and tournament dates that are important. Who to submit things to, any questions, who to contact, and any fundraisers coming up. So behind that, I would include this sort of roster. So this includes obviously the athlete names, when their physical expiration was, or their consent expiration if that's coming up sooner, and a contact number for those coaches to then take this list, reach out to the athletes that were on their team in the past, and get a hold of them. And you can see that I marked the expired ones in red and that yellow one because I had an issue with it. So it's a great way for a coach to look at that and see who would need a new form before their season even starts. So there's no question on it. There's no rushing to get it. They know it right away. And behind that, I would include the full application for participations. I'm not going to show you the whole thing right now because you know what they look like, but here's a good one. You just print it off, give it to them. And in this sense, this form was expired, so I wrote at the top that they need an updated form and highlighted it. That way this coach can see right away in red that they need a new form, and this athlete can't participate until they get a new form. Area 11 also created their own kind of TEQ sheet. So it includes everything on the TEQ that the coaches have to upload. And this gives them a physical copy that they can look at, fill out, and still do the online one if needed. And they also give them a blank poly hockey roster. So it gives the names and alternates for that final registration process. It gives the ADs something physical that the coaches have turned in of their rosters. So this is an equipment use form. If you're meeting at these coaches meetings, it's great to meet kind of where your equipment is. And Area 11 gives this equipment use form out at the coaches meeting so that the coach can even pick up their poly hockey gear and equipment right then at that meeting. It's got the name, signature, contact number, when it was checked out, who was there, kind of give you a better idea of where everything is during your season. And then they would include the fundraiser flyer if they have one, a blank application for participation, and a blank volunteer A form. So those are just some ideas of things you can put in an info packet. You can put obviously whatever you needed, whatever's specific for your area and what's important, but then they have that physical thing that they can hold on to. This first bullet's kind of, once we get out of all of this stuff, you could hold a delegation meeting before big events. So the coaches, the athletes, the families, give everyone all the information right at once. Give housing, travel information, anything that you think would be important for that event, important things to bring, clothing. And then nothing is lost in translation when it's relayed on to the families or the athletes. It's always everything that they need. Then at the event, a coach chaperone meeting at events is very important, especially the first night. If you have one person go to the coaches meeting and then relay that information, they can explain any changes to the schedules, any emergency protocols or plans that are important to know, important phone numbers, not only for your area, but any SOMI staff or the hotel, things that a coach would need at any point to help them out and make their lives easier throughout that time. And then, of course, any times. That way, coaches can get everyone where they need to be for sports, special events, ceremonies, when they need to be there. You could get a sport coordinator to cover sports or local coordinators to cover multiple sports. It's kind of up to you if you want to do this. It's a great way kind of to pull that one coach or that one parent that's really involved and help them be that point of communication to then relay the messages on to the area directors, or take that message from the area directors and then give it to their teams or their athletes. You could have meetings throughout the year by Zoom even if needed. With all this craziness. GroupMe is a great app that you can use. It's a free app for group texting on smart devices. It's a great way to send updates, reminders, also just to have conversation throughout an event. What places everyone's getting, who's where. And you can use it throughout the year to send updates about practices or reminders about deadlines. And at events to help keep track of where everyone is, what's going on. You could keep a database of your coaches, have their name, contact information, the sports that they coach or any sport they are interested in, as well as like the team name of the team they coach. It's a great way to be able to share that information with more people if you have an actual list to give. So for athlete recruitment, I know many of you are very experienced with this, and that would be alumni of school programs, special education departments in local schools, group home directors. and Unified Champion Schools. So you want to contact Dan Ekinen at dan.ekinen@somi.org if you have more questions about how to get involved in the schools. If maybe you have ideas of schools that you haven't really branched into and you want to see how you can do that, he's a great person to get in contact with, and he'll work with you to figure out some of the local schools that would work best for your area. So for athlete communication, as I mentioned before for that welcome back packet, that is a great way if you keep track of the athletes that have upcoming expired forms or they're going to expire. You can notify them that it's going to expire, like right at the beginning of the season or right at the beginning of the year. And you have the ability to do that because if you go to our session 1 video, we cover how to pull that GMS report. So you can see when things expire and let them know that it's about to expire. You can include blank forms if needed, participation form, code of conduct, a medication list if you have that updated yearly, as well as a calendar of sports for the year. So I will show you, Area 8 has a great example of that. So this is what Area 8 uses. It starts with kind of a little introduction, information, who to contact, some of their policies as an area, and then this is their calendar of events. It's got the event date, place, information, when registration's due, when scores are due if that's a thing, what the event is, when coach chaperone meetings might be, area management meetings might be, some contact information. And then here's another version of it, kind of. Their eligibility for participation. They sent out this program participation form to get an idea of who wants to be part of what sport. They have an idea at the beginning of who to contact, and then they have that when the sports are coming up. They can reach out to them again. What you need to participate. This is great. You can send this to coaches too and chaperones, and then they know they need these specific things in order to be part of your program specifically and Special Olympics in general. They also include some resources on how to get physicals for the athlete participation form, blank forms. So they include a lot in this. They show protective behaviors and concussion resources, and then they finish with their fact sheet so that those areas can have more information. So another thing you could use to communicate with athletes is, of course, having phone calls are very important. You can utilize Google Voice or voicemail if you don't have an office phone or don't have one person specific or one phone number specific for your area. It's a free app that you can download from your app store. Once you sign up for it and connect it to a Google account, you can pick a phone number related kind of to a city near you, an area near you, and then it seems familiar to your athletes, and they can call it. I'm not sure if you can answer just yet, but I know they can leave a voicemail, and then you can reach back out to them. You can forward calls to phones, and that makes it a lot easier to get in contact and have one place where all voicemails are stored. So these are our athlete numbers after the cleanup, and I know they look scary. It's really not as scary as it seems. Before the cleanup total, we had 15,000 athletes in GMS. This is just GMS. And then after the cleanup, we had 9,000 some. So it is about a 38% decrease. Keep in mind that these are possibly expired athletes or athletes that don't participate anymore. And so that's kind of what our cleanup was to do, to help get a more understanding idea of the athletes that participate through GMS This doesn't include schools or that sort of thing. So it looks scary, but now we can look at how to get our numbers up after the cleanup. That's getting us up-to-date forms for athletes that have expired, or if we didn't have their form. Finding new athletes and recruiting and using these communication tools, expanding possibly the number of teams that you have for each sport. So for, say, poly hockey, adding more teams if possible to get more athletes to fill those teams, and new coaches to increase your network as well. And then you could always reach out to athletes that were made inactive in the past and maybe have lost touch with Special Olympics in one way or another. So for volunteer recruitment, I'm sure many of you know that volunteers love free stuff, whether that's a free t-shirt, free food. They love swag, and they really appreciate anything that you're willing to give them. But a way to recruit, a great way, is to make it easy for them to register. If they understand how to register and what they're doing, it's not too complicated, they'll be more willing to complete that registration and actually follow through with it. If something's too confusing, they might kind of give up because they just don't understand how to get involved. You could get volunteer groups from large companies. Kohl's is a great example. We use Kohl's through many of our state events, and I know not every area has a Kohl's that's local to them or easy to get in contact with, but if you kind of just Google companies that have volunteer programs, you can find some of your local ones, or just reach out to your local businesses and see, do they have a group of employees that are willing to volunteer or are excited? A lot of companies have a give back policy, which kind of works in the same way, but it also can at times match any donations too, which is great. You'll want to utilize volunteer locally, which is something that Kelly Murphy will send out once a month during this time of coronavirus, COVID-19. She hasn't been sending it out because we don't want you to miss out on these great volunteers. She's been collecting them so that at the end, when we start to get back into normal swing of things, you'll get this list of all the volunteers that have signed up during this, specific for your area, with names, phone numbers, and what they kind of want to get involved in, whether that's coaching or refereeing, if that's just volunteering at a local event or helping with fundraisers. It gives specifically what they're interested in and any sports that they have experience with. Some websites you could use are Volunteer Match. It's free and you can post what you need, and then local people see that on the website and reach out to you. You could have a post up year round about just general volunteering and how to get informed and access to your area. And then as they sign up, you'll get information about those interested people. Same with Sign Up Genius. It's free, and I'm pretty sure it works very similarly. You could reach out to colleges and universities for volunteers. They have lots of students. Some need volunteer hours for their specific major or maybe for their program. But you want to really target who you ask. So for a poly hockey tournament, you'd want to reach out to hockey clubs and teams. And for basketball, same thing. You'd want to reach out to basketball clubs or intramurals. Those basketball players are a lot more excited to volunteer for a basketball tournament than maybe they would be for like a volleyball tournament. So if you kind of focus who you reach out to, who you contact, they'll be more excited to help out and actually may bring more people on their team. Service groups and clubs are great. If you go to the college or university's website, oftentimes you can find a list of all of their clubs. And sometimes they give descriptions and you can see, are they volunteer focused? Are they service focused? And those are great to reach out to. As well, of course, with the special education departments and majors, because they are always excited to get involved with our community. For volunteer communication. So an important thing is to send a confirmation email after the sign up. And at times you can automate this. So if they sign up for something, you can set up whatever resource you're using to send them an email right away saying, you've been signed up, thanks for signing up. If you can't figure that out, it's always great just to send an email to them, thanking them for volunteering, saying that you'll get them more information as it gets closer to the event, but you appreciate their interest and their help. If it's for an event, you're going to want to start sending information 2 weeks out. So you could send them assignments, times, information on the location and parking. Kelly gives a great volunteer packet, which I'm going to show you an example of. So this is Kelly Murphy's volunteer guide for state basketball. She starts with information on the event, some facts about it, the schedule of events, the job descriptions of all the volunteers and what they could be doing, what they could sign up for, and then volunteer times, both start and ending. You're going to want to do the beginning a little further ahead because of registration. You want them to get there, get settled, get their shirt on if they have it, or if you have one, if they want to put it on. And then an important thing to remember is you want to give them an end time, but you don't want to give them the exact. If you think an event is going to end at 11, maybe push that back to 11:30, 12, because our events run behind all the time. So you don't want them to think, oh, well, my time's done and I'm going to leave. But if you give them just even a little bit pushed out, then they'll be more willing to stay. And then, hey, if they get done early, that's great too. She gives some frequently asked questions, some tips for volunteering, information on social media, and thanks them again at the end of it. So that's kind of 2 weeks out. 1 week out, you're going to want to send a reminder and specific information on the event. Don't let them forget that they signed up to volunteer. If you send a reminder, then they'll be, oh yeah, it's in a week, and they'll be more excited for it. The week of, you're going to want to send any changes that have been made, times, locations, weather. Say it's now going to rain, you can remind them, hey, don't forget an umbrella or don't forget a rain jacket. Maybe it's going to be really hot and you're just saying, get excited, get your sunscreen, get your sunglasses. It'll be a sunny day. You want to help the volunteers get comfortable. So any question that you might have about an event that you're helping out with, give them the answer as well, because you don't want this volunteer to walk up to an event and be nervous or not sure where to go or who to talk to. If you give as much information as possible, they'll feel totally comfortable going into it and excited and ready for the day. If you get the same question over and over from volunteers, this goes for coaches, athletes, anyone really, you can just send out one mass email to all of them. One reminder that, hey, we've gotten this question a lot. Here's the answer. And then you're also going to want to explain what everything means. So, especially for first-time volunteers, they may not know what healthy athletes is, young athletes, what skills is, or special events. So if you explain what those things are, they're more comfortable when they get to the event explaining, oh, that's where young athletes is, it's over here. They know what skills are, and they know special events, oh, it's the arts and crafts, there's a bunch of stuff over here. And it gives them a lot more understanding of the event itself and what all goes into it and what's all available to the athletes. So how to keep a volunteer. This is, of course, important because it can be easy to get volunteers, but you want them to keep coming back. You want them to be excited about your area, about Special Olympics. And the way you figure that out is that if someone's going to continue volunteering, it all depends on how their first event goes with that organization. So running this event, you're going to want to create a fun environment. You're going to want to greet all the volunteers, because the better personal connection they make, the more likely they'll come back and they'll return. An idea is to make sure that they always have a task. you want to think that you have the perfect amount of volunteers, but oftentimes you get more than you can ask for, and you never ever want to turn away a volunteer. So keep things in your back pocket, like fans in the stands, or being a runner, walking things from one table to another, or helping volunteers get to their place, being that person for them to reach out to. And then, of course, be flexible. So if someone needs to leave or switch positions, be as flexible as you can, helping them feel comfortable in that new spot so that they're comfortable enough and they want to stay. And then, of course, thank them when they leave. Or something cool you could do is send a follow-up email about the event. Hey, we had this many teams and this many gold medals. Thank you so much for helping us run this event to allow these athletes to reach their goals. And that sort of thing makes those volunteers feel like they did something important and they helped as best they could. So for social media, we talked about this a little bit last week, or 2 weeks ago, but if you add all the signups for your events, either if it's links or information about how to get signed up and some deadlines, you'll reach a lot of athletes, and you can give information on practice times and locations. If it's a closed group, you don't want to give this out to the public, but if it's a closed group or specific athletes that you know are at these practice times and locations, it's great to share it with them. You can notify athletes about upcoming sports or events and when signups will be, up to even a month out if you want. By creating an event on Facebook, you can give deadlines, links, information, and get those athletes something to count down to, something to excite them about. Another idea is to use it for sport cancellations. I mean, we live in Michigan, so come basketball season, there's practices that get canceled and updates to the practices, and using Facebook is another way to kind of reach out to people that may not have gotten the memo through a phone call or an email or anything like that. So our final suggestion and topic is to encourage your parents, coaches, volunteers to utilize scanning apps on your smartphone or any smart device with a camera. So when scanning on a cell phone or smart device, it does need to have a camera on the device. So you can use a tablet, but if that tablet doesn't have a camera, this won't work. So you can utilize it for sending forms to us, to SOMI, from parents, coaches, even area directors, their participation forms, their volunteer A forms, anything you get. It's easy to just snap a picture and send it in. Also sending forms to coaches, or coaches sending forms to ADs that have been turned in or completed like during their specific practice. There are a lot of free apps. So if you have an iPhone, you can actually just use the Notes app that's right in your phone. I'm going to show you how to do it in a little bit. And if you have an Android phone, you can download the Google Drive app, and it's an easy way to scan forms through a picture. I'm not really sure why, but unfortunately you can't scan on the Google Drive if you have an iPhone. But there is Genius Scan, Cam Scanner, Adobe Scan. There's a lot. If you Google free scanning, there's a lot of different options. You can find the one that you think is user-friendly, best for you, and easiest to use. So we'll talk a little bit about how to scan in iPhone Notes. So this is my home screen. You can see to the right, I have a circle around what kind of looks like a notebook with a spiral bound. That is your notes if you have an iPhone. And if you click on it, it comes up to this picture on the left. In order to scan, it has to be in the On My iPhone section. So you can see on the right picture, it's circled on my iPhone. That notes that's right below it, you're going to want to click on that. And when you click on that, there's an option to start a new note. And then this is what it looks like. Again, on the right, you can see a camera is circled. You want to click on that camera, and this will come up. If you select Scan Documents, if this is your first time using it, you may need to allow access to your photos. That's just a simple okay or yes, whatever comes up on your phone. And then this is kind of what it looks like. Your camera pops up, and I was scanning a blank participation form. You can see it's yellow because that's marking out where on whatever surface the form is. And then to the right, you can see what it looks like when it's been kind of accepted and it recognizes the scan. For some, you can actually drag and adjust the corners to allow it to be the right form and the right size. And then from there, you can either retake it or adjust it further. And on the right, this is actually a colored piece of paper. It's yellow, and it was able to scan it just as well as anything else. So then once you have all of your forms scanned that you would like in this PDF, or if you would like them individually, you can do separate notes for each form. But you'll press the save button that's at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And then it'll come up with this, which is all of the forms in one. It's called, they called it application for participation because it recognized the beginning of that form. From here, you'll press, it's kind of like a box with an arrow in the top right corner. That is like a share button. So when you press that, it pops up on the right side. You can see it, these would be your contacts, which I've blocked out. And then any apps that you've recently used, or they suggest that you could share it. So in this case, I sent it through mail. You can press on the mail button. It pops up with your email. Enter who it's for, enter a subject, any notes that you have, and then if you press that gold arrow on the top right, then it sends. And it's sent as a PDF right to whoever you need it to send it to as a scanned form. So it's very easy to use. And then I'll also show you if you have an Android phone. One of my coworkers was very nice to help me out with this. So to start, if you have an Android phone, you're going to want to download Google Drive from your app store. She has a whole folder of all the Google stuff. So you can see on this right picture, this is what the Drive button looks like. So you'll press that. This is what it opens up to. It shows things that you've used in the past. And then in the bottom right corner, there's a colorful plus sign, and you'll press that. A create new box comes up, and look, it even says scan right in the bottom section. So you'll click on that scan button. Again, allow access to your camera if you haven't done it before, and the camera will open. You'll want to center the document in the middle of the display or the camera screen, and then click the button to take the picture. There's a crop option if you need to adjust the form at all or what's shown. And then there's a save button, and that's down here. This is the crop, and this is the save. From here, you can change the document title if you need it. Maybe you want to call it, in this case, it's an activity guide. So you change it to activity guide. You can change the folder if you have multiple folders in your Google Drive, and then you can press save, and it'll automatically be saved into your Google Drive as a PDF. So all of your area emails have connections to a Google Drive, and you can save it right there, and you can have access to it whenever you need it. So those are some important scanning. A lot of the scanning applications that you can get on your phone are very, very similar to this sort of thing. So we're going to actually open the floor up to those of who have joined us and kind of asking, what does your area do for recruitment and communication, both with athletes, coaches, volunteers, anyone? Do you do anything specific or fun or different that you haven't heard of? Anyone that wants to share at all or any ideas? Well, Pat, do you do anything specific for Area 5?
We usually have coaches meeting before the season starts, and our coaches always get a big folder of all the information before the season starts with all
Great.
the athlete information and everything. And we use social media to do all the communication with the athletes, pretty much, along with emails, because a lot of our people don't have access to internet.
Mm. All right, Sadie, I know you're very new to it, but is there anything you're going to try out or you're excited for?
We're just starting out, trying to figure out where we're going here.
Wow.
Sandy will do fine.
Yeah, these are great tips, and you can start with these communication things now, kind of to get your athletes and your coaches involved and excited about like the upcoming virtual fall games and just things to look forward to. So this is great. Janelle, did you have anything to add at all? All right. Well, we can move on. So for the next session, it's going to be registration breakdown, kind of the before registration, what you need. It's still TBD because we're still deciding on the date, but the same time, 5:30 to 6:30.
Check the calendars, please.
So again, stay safe. We miss you. These are our contact informations and any areas that we work with.